Hello and welcome to the unnamed, as of recording, unnamed podcast.
As of time of recording, no particular title.
I'm Scott Dooley, he is Jason Chatfield, and this is a show about the genesis of New Yorker cartoons.
Precisely.
That we write.
Yes. Scott and I are contributors to The New Yorker, which is a little tin pot magazine in Manhattan. It's been going
Part of the fake news media.
the failing New Yorker.
The failing New Yorker.
We get together at least once a week and badger each other over text.
Isn't that great? I'm sorry to cut you.
No, do it.
Can you be failing if the president knows you? Like, to me, that's always the sign of, like, something is going really well if the president talks about it.
It's a badge of pride. I was blocked by Trump and I've never been prouder. On Twitter, he blocked me.
We've had a bit of a curious Trump. We'll get into that later.
We'll get there.
But we do New Yorker.
Yeah, and we know each other, Scott and I, through doing stand-up comedy. I've been doing stand-up for about 11 years, so I'm an 11-year-old baby.
Yeah.
And, we both live in New York now. A couple of Aussies in bloody New York.
Oh, who would have thought it? Look at them go.
Doing our little bloody riddles. And and we've decided to turn our attention to doing New Yorker cartoons.
Because, I mean, you are a successful cartoonist before this. You are the most syndicated cartoonist in Australian history.
Well, at this point, sure.
Is there someone coming up behind you?
No, I'm just... It's the second oldest comic strip in the world in history. And it goes to 34 countries every day. It's called Ginger Megs.
How do you get that? Because obviously you weren't drawing this when 100 years before you were born.
1921.
Yeah.
No.
So how did you get that gig? Like, do you have to audition? Like, what's the audition process? Like, no, but I mean, they don't just go, hey, if you can draw Ginger Megs.
Yeah.
And you got some jokes.
Have you got 10,000 jokes?
Yeah, if you got 10,000 jokes.
You can do it for 10 years.
And none of them can involve busty snakes. However...
or Fatty Finn.
However, if you do have busty snake gags...
always.
Yeah, we've got a strip for you.
Yeah. I took it over in 2007, about 10 years ago, nearly 11 years ago. And it was the previous cartoonist who was doing it who asked me to take it over.
Am I right saying it's Kinsley?
Kinsley, that's right. Yeah. He was the fourth cartoonist in 97 years to do it, and I knew he was kind of a mentor of mine, a cartooning mentor of mine. He was the president of the Australian Cartoonists Association and quite the cartoonist himself, and took Ginger Megs from just an ailing Sunday strip to a multi-international syndicated deal with Universal.
Wow.
So, about 3 days before he died, he asked me to take it over. And we thought we had some time for him to train me up, but he died. So I figured...
This all seems a bit convenient, Mr. Chatfield. But,
no
one was here when he said, I should take over when he dies. And then 3 days later, he mysteriously... How many feathers were found in his lungs? Like, did you smother him with? What kind of pillow did you smother him with?
It's still, the jury's still out on that one. I paid off my jury of peers, good men and true. Yeah.
Well, it's nice we're, 4 minutes in and we've already laughed at the death of one of your mentors.
I think we've set the tone for the podcast, really, let's be honest.
But so we started doing these things and we've started getting a few in, and it's very humbling, and people are... the thing that happens, and you get it more than me... Mine
for now.
Mine is more the nuts and bolts of how does this happen?
Yes.
And people are very interested in how you go from idea to being in the New Yorker.
Sure, and you and I are wired in that way, in that we're constantly looking for material for comedy.
Yeah.
So we already our radar's already up.
To the detriment of literally every relationship we have, except for the one you're listening to now.
You know that. You're intimately familiar with that. Yes. Yeah. And our egos being what they are, we think if a gag doesn't fly on stage, hey, maybe there's a second life in this one somewhere.
Yeah.
To the point that our very first cartoon that we collaborated on, Scott shot it over to me, I think via Messenger or something. You go, hey, is there something in this? And then you gave me the scenario.
Yeah.
And I drew it up and I thought, that's hilarious. That's a great idea. and I pitched it to the New Yorker, and the cartoon editor, who was only a few weeks in at this point, just reeled back from the page and went, "Christ, that's grim."
That's right.
And she said, "Christ, that's grim."
And that was
It was summarily rejected.
Yeah, and for good reason. You sent that to me as a Christmas card,
I
and
did.
it was deeply inappropriate because the picture is a guy on death row with the electric chair.
If I may, that's the premise, but we can't say the punch until April 1st.
Oh,
Because that gag has now been sold to Mad
that's
Magazine.
right. It's in Mad Magazine.
Issue number 1.
Fantastic.
The new editorial. So you know the premise, but to find out what the punch is, you're going to have to buy Mad number 1 in April 1st.
Which was a thing that I had when I was a kid. Look, in future episodes, we're not going to kind of disappear up our asses so much, but we think you should get to know us.
Sure.
I was a subscriber to Mad Magazine for 10 years and have all these ones from the 60s and stuff. I've still got them.
Golden year.
So getting into Mad Magazine
Ah.
with the first thing we kind of came up with together is kind of...
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. No, that's a big deal. Yeah.
So it's been a lifelong
I couldn't even get a
dream.
letter to the editor into Australian Mad Magazine. So this is...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No,
Well,
I tried.
There
but
is
no
no
good.
Australian Mad anymore. It folded. It was DJ Williams.
It folded in.
It folded in at the back.
Little Mad Magazine humour for
There
you.
you go.
Can we say that this is the Mort Drucker Studios as a tribute? Live from Mort Drucker Studios.
From Mort Central.
Is the nameless pod.
Brilliant. I love that. Yeah, so that's us. You know who we are, what we do, and how we know each other.
Do you have any names for this?
Oh, yeah, we got to think of a name for the pod.
So I thought... So what I thought... Should we just name it at the end? Let's just go through and something will jump out.
Oh, we can. Yeah, sure. I mean, some early front runners were The Batch, because each week you go in on a Tuesday morning and you submit your batch of, 6 to 10 cartoons to the cartoon editor at the New Yorker. And, when we sit down in the cartoon lounge, we go, yeah, how's your batch this week? What do you got in your batch?
My problem with that, my concern with that, it's not a problem, is that people might think it's a bachelor podcast and be disappointed when we're not saying like, why didn't Taylor H lend Taylor A Cassandra's shampoo before the ceremony?
I can
that was a
already
real
see
bitch mode.
the complaint letters and the iTunes reviews. All right. So okay, and the other one of
I
the
do
other
like
earlier,
the batch though.
The batch not bad. It's not bad. What about? I think you threw this one in the mix. Is there something in this?
Because that's what I say before every single thing.
We'll meet at a bar on a Monday night. You go, is there something in this? And then you'll give a premise or a joke, an idea, and we'll flesh it out together. So that could be something. Or is this funny? Or
I like that.
is this funny?
Yeah. Is this funny? Yeah. Is this funny? That's your.
Other cartoonists say that to each other. Hey, is this funny?
Yeah.
Because there's so much self-doubt in cartooning and comedy writing that until you get it in front of an audience, you're operating inside a vacuum where you think you're funny, but until it gets some kind of audience, you really don't quite know.
Or do we just get cynical and just call it a Harry Potter podcast? like Beyonce Central. You know what I mean? The Beyonce, Jay-Z, Harry Potter,
Serial
3, Sia podcast. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That's so. I mean,
get
I'm
rejected.
certainly not saying no to Harry Potter podcast.
The Harry podcast, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well. I'm glad we've got to stay away from puns because nothing annoys me more than like, pitch session or you know what I mean. That's hardly a saying. What do you?
The Batchcast. Yeah, we're not doing it.
Yeah,
No,
cast.
we're not doing
That
it.
was a thing we
Something
really
cast.
left by the wayside as a podcasting universe.
Yes.
Is finishing everything with cast.
My first podcast was 12 years ago. I started one called the Perthcast when I was living in Perth,
That's
in Western
great.
Australia.
and a lot of complaints about coffee prices at that time.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
$3.40 for a bloody latte.
I mean, this is the downside to the mining boom.
Call the Lord Mayor.
Thanks, Rose Hancock.
You just summed up the entire beginning and end of that podcast. So I'm very I'm against anything cast. I think.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know about Batchcast or something.
Right.
What about? I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to use the name New Yorker in the title at all because you got the New Yorker Radio Hour.
Oh, yeah.
Scott and Jason come up with New Yorker cartoons.
I don't mind that.
Howard and what's his name?
But then
Kumar
what's it
go to White
about?
Castle. Yeah, what's it about? Yeah, right, what you know.
Should we do some pictures? So what happens, because Jason is the genius here, and I just kind of go, you know, it'd be funny,
That's
a
not
guy
true at
with a
all.
thing. So we kind of just go backward and forward with kind of just general idea. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Is there something in this?
Okay.
A doctor looking at a chart and then sat on, you know, just the general GP kind of.
I know it well.
You know, that kind of bench.
Yeah.
He's sitting on the bench. He's kind of wearing the Daredevil gear.
The gown?
Yeah, cape.
Yeah.
The V with the stars on it, the
Yes.
white suit, kind of Evil Knievel style.
Evil Knievel, yes.
And the doctor's looking at a chart, and it says, "Well, according to this, you're very stupid."
On first, yeah, okay, I didn't see that coming.
Well, that's
which is
not
good.
bad,
That's
yeah.
a good. You want to misdirect? You want a nice.
I think we've got a chart one in the mix at the moment, don't we? Didn't we have another chart
a
one?
doctor standing, looking at his clipboard and looking up consolatory at the. He's looking at the patient who has his robe on, sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And he's saying, "Well, look at the bright side. Maybe they'll name it after you."
That's right.
That's one of yours. That was actually quite a good
That's
gag.
right.
So that's in the mix at the moment. It hasn't got a bite yet, but
Right.
we'll soon find out.
And so what we do as well is we pitch each other these ideas and then go back and viciously Google and search Twitter and Facebook to make sure that these
Yes.
jokes haven't been made by someone.
I have a lot of anxiety about that.
Oh, it's
Because sometimes when you come up with a good idea, your self-doubt kicks in and you go, well, that must have been done already. And inadvertently, sometimes you might do a gag that someone else has done by starting at one idea and arriving somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they took the same track. Like, for instance, Jeremy Newen had a fantastic gag, which was the train is currently being held by the train's dispatcher.
Right.
And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if there was a guy just... The train stopped in the tunnel. It's just a dude hugging the front of the train.
Sure.
And then, sure enough, he'd already done one with it.
Right,
There's a
right.
giant train dispatcher with a tiny subway train in his hand. It's his execution of it was way better than what I would have arrived at. But yeah, that does happen all the time.
Okay, is there something in this one? You know how... So in New York, they call winter cuffing season. And what that means is you find a partner... And even if they're not kind of the person you're going to kind of, want to be with all the time, you spend more time with them because the weather's terrible. So you've got someone to watch television shows
That's why they
with.
call it fall. That's when you have to fall for someone.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is there something in this, because it's coming out of winter now, allegedly, into spring, is a guy, I don't know how it is,
Okay.
but so these are a few ideas. A woman saying to another woman, it's like, it's not serious. I'm just binging until the next season.
That's not bad.
I prefer this binging.
Yeah.
Binging is the
That's the
kind of
key.
the link. Yeah. So, and then the other one was like a guy presenting flowers to a woman who is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought we were just binging until the new season started."
New season.
New
pairing
season's-
that with actual seasons of the
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. Well, so people will binge a season of something.
Yeah.
So you
Have you watched Wild Wild Country?
No, what is that?
Dude, it's this thing.
Netflix
It's a
or-
Netflix.
okay,
It's
all right.
about this cult that kind of had plans on taking over Oregon in the 80s.
Really?
Never heard of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And it is
does sound
so
interesting.
well done.
Okay. All right. Wild country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing I've noticed about people in cults. If you were good at
Go on.
if you're good at denying something as a cult,
Yes.
you'd be great to be in a cult.
Yeah, I feel like-
because cult members are always like, it's definitely not a cult. It's definitely like there's footage
It's just
of them.
cleaning products. It's
Yeah,
Amway.
it's not a cult. It's
Look,
not a cult.
I know that the structure looks like a pyramid, but it's not. It's really not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first thing they say to you. I remember someone trying to get me into Amway one time. And it got such a bad rap that they changed the name of it to A2K.
That was such a great... Nothing's better than jazzing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, is this Amway?
Yeah.
It's like, well, they had a branding change.
Yeah.
It's the same products. It's a different name.
Yeah. Well, we've actually changed our name to iKeyring. What? Yeah, it's still the same products. We just put a lowercase I in front of our existing business name.
Actually, Amway 2.0.
Yeah.
So something,
there's something in that. There is something in the binging and the
something
caffeine.
definitely in the seasons, binging. It's not serious. I'm just there's something in that. In committing to something for a season.
Yeah.
I couldn't get past the first season.
Couldn't get past the first season. Oh, there you go.
Something like that. Because people often say with a series, like, I saw it, but I couldn't get past the first season. Or, yes, I binged 2 seasons.
Maybe it's a bit more of a day. So there's 2 types of cartoons, right?
Yes, yeah. There's daily cartoons, which pertain to sort of pertinent news stories or cultural stories or phenomena. And then there's the magazine ones. And those can be pertinent, but they're also slightly more evergreen and less topical. They are looking, to the New Yorker's credit, they are looking for interesting voices and different lateral takes on things. And Emma, the new cartoon editor, she's great at kind of picking out a nice selection of different voices.
I'm worried she's an underachiever.
I'm
really worried she's an underachiever.
That's why we're getting so many.
Yeah.
But so there are different kinds of New Yorker cartoons. So very often if we pitch one and we're like, maybe that's more of a daily. That's what we mean when we say that's more of a daily. That's
more of a daily, yeah.
So
it's generally, in our experience, Donald Trump watching television and reacting.
Yeah. You'll not, if you go to thenewyorker.com and you look up Scott Dooley and Jason Chatfield, inevitably you will just come across photos of Trump yelling at a television.
Now, can we talk about this?
Yes.
So you know how before I was saying, like, the idea, how can something that the president has mentioned be unsuccessful? Because the president knows who it is. We are living proof that you can be... Because we got a message from a White House insider, which in itself
is a lobbyist,
is already insane.
Yeah.
Saying we had a cartoon in the New Yorker, which was it was what was it? It
during
was
the march,
the walkouts. It was the student walkouts.
That's right.
And it was Trump watching the thing because he had tried to pass judgment on violent video games.
He very quickly went to the old standard of, it's all the movies and video games they're watching that make them violent. Yeah, that's it. Good one.
So so we had one which was, they probably got the idea from protesty video games or something.
That was a great, on your part, you were like, protesty? I'm like, no, that's the best part of the joke. Protesty. Yeah.
So, and Chatfield drew him and the thing that every person who saw it went, it's so funny how small his hands are.
The hands and the hair were the comments I got the most.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about getting a New Yorker cartoon in the Daily is they post it on their Facebook page. And
which is just a warm, supportive place.
Of course, it's nothing but encouraging. It's a bag of cats, let's be honest. It's insane. So and how quickly it devolves into just Hitler talk and
there's a lot of Hitler talk and there's a lot of like and just the best almost not that you could ever condone that kind of talk, but when people are reacting to a comment,
yes.
My favorite ones are just the non sequiturs.
Oh yeah,
like just out of nowhere. Like, how much are we paying school teachers?
I write those down. I write them down. I keep them in a notepad. I do. I have an actual list of them because I then write jokes off those. I consider them.
If you were ever searched and they went through,
that's happened before.
They'd be like, mate.
That's happened before.
Really?
Yeah, I got stopped. My passport got confiscated by Border Force.
Which is what the Australians call customs.
Yeah, it's what Tony Abbott decided to rename it. And because I went through without a passport, they detained me and went through my things. And they found my notebook where I write on my cartoon ideas and comedy bits. And comedy bits, if any comedians listening, you know that the heinous crap you write in order to arrive at a joke, to explore an issue and poke it to death. If you saw that in a notebook, that's immediately Unabomber territory. That's not good.
Yeah.
So there were a few raised eyebrows, and I was held for a little while. But when they found out, you write on the customs form under occupation, I wrote cartoonist.
Right.
So they were like, all right, well, he's already deranged. Let's let him go.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way, that was the we did get this particular cartoon in the Daily, and they probably got it's Trump watching the TV, watching all these kids walk out of school in protest of these lax gun laws, saying they probably got the idea from all those protesty video games. a lobbyist friend of mine who, in DC, he was with Trump one afternoon with a whole bunch of people.
President of the United States.
And saw that on his desk was this cartoon. Someone had printed it out for him. I don't know if you know this. Printed it out.
Our cartoon.
Our cartoon. Among several others, I'll be clear. But basically, he gets these little batches of things. And this is not... People thought this was some kind of false news. This is a real thing. He gets these folders of what people are saying about him, photos, pictures, cartoons, a wrap of what good people are saying good and bad about him, mainly good. And yeah, he gets them delivered to his office twice a day from various people. And the person who gets to deliver that, they fight for that position, to be able to be the person that gives him the folder. In that folder was our cartoon. He liked it. I was devastated.
He was so upset.
Absolutely devastated. I was miserable.
And I was, on the other hand, being like, this is the funniest thing that has ever easily the funniest thing that's ever happened in my life, is that not only have we written a joke, and Donald Trump has seen it, but he's completely missed the point. And to me, that was just Italian chef kissing fingers to the power of infinity. Like I couldn't have wished for a greater reaction. Is like we're teasing his reaction, and he's like, you know what? I like the way this guy draws, but and his only comment was about how he looked. He looked.
He didn't even read the caption
in this big cartoon of him.
And I did really
He's
go
the
to
leader
town.
of the free world for 3 or 4 more months. And then before the Chinese really kind of hammer it.
Let's be honest,
And but that just the thing of him going and this is the thing. Your friend heard this, which means he
saw it.
Which means he said it to no one in particular, I imagine.
He very frequently does this, apparently. This isn't out of the ordinary for him.
So what did he say?
He said he loved it. And that,
just out of nowhere, he's just like, "Oh, did you see this?"
Well, I think my friend mentioned that I had done it and that he knew me.
God almighty.
And
your friend must be a very powerful lobbyist. If he's like, "Oh, let's just see what happens."
He has been on Air Force One once.
Really?
Yes, but he's not a powerful. I mean, listen, he's an insider. He's my Washington insider, and
can you tell us?
I can't tell you his name.
No. Can you tell us any more? Is he from what industry does he represent?
I can't even tell you that.
Wow.
I can't even tell you what country he's from.
Really?
No, it's very tightly guarded.
That's amazing.
But he is.
How do you know him?
You know, funnily enough, through doing stand-up comedy gigs.
Really?
Yes. He's a keen fan of comedians, comedy.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, when he told me that, I was
just how uncomfortable you are right now. Makes me know this story is not fake news in any way.
I wish it was. I wish it was fake news.
You were so pissed off about this. Oh, it's so
needed
wild.
A drink when I found it.
You did. You went out and had a drink at 2:00 in the afternoon.
I did.
Meanwhile, I was like,
it's a regular Monday.
I was messaging I messaged my mum and went, "Oh, you'll never guess who just completely missed the point of this."
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that vein, when you hit the president right where he wants it. Just ask Stormy Daniels. When you hit him like that, you have that moment of boing of going, well, are we doing the wrong thing by drawing him in such a way that it can be mistaken in his arrogance-riddled sort of narcissistic personality disorder brain? Why don't we make it abundantly apparent that we're taking the piss? Problem then is it doesn't usually get a run.
Well, also, but that's not like what. I feel like I didn't write that caption and that idea wasn't from I want to stick it to Trump. It was more a reflection of people missing the point, of which he is the lightning rod for that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like we could have had Wayne LaPierre, but he doesn't he doesn't scan. You can't understand.
In that exact same day, the batch that we sent that morning for the dailies was also one in the NRA, which was them looking at the TV going, how dare they use the Second Amendment to protest the first?
The first.
Versa.
That's right.
And
I like that joke, actually.
It wasn't bad, but it definitely didn't hit Trump. It hit the NRA.
So I told my buddy Kim about this, and I was like, you'll never guess who saw this joke. How funny is this? Like, who would have thought these kids from Australia wrote this dumb joke, and then the president of the United States not only saw it, but commented on it? That's amazing. And I explained to him the reaction, and he goes, There's literally a Simpsons episode where Monty Burns goes to Marge and goes, "Thanks for not making fun of my dick." And she goes, "I thought I was."
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just thought that was
That's
great.
amazing.
What do you got?
All right, what have I got this week? Well, I got a few little things, bits and pieces. I don't know. Once again, some are dailies and some are to go into the magazine. So each week I'll put together a batch that might work as a batch for the magazine, and sometimes, in the case of last week, they'll pick one out of the magazine batch and go, "Hey, can we buy this for the daily?"
Oh yeah, we do have one coming up.
So we just sold one a couple
You'll
of days
see
ago.
that.
And it's again, as it pertains to Trump, he probably won't. He's not in it in the picture, so he probably won't like it. But it's devastating. It is. Look, it's a little victory knowing he saw it, but I'm devastated and miserable that he liked it.
Sure.
I have an idea of, when you go into a Hungry Jack's or, a Burger King or a McDonald's or something like that, and in any kind of service job, they just, to really, keep the employees interested or at least loyal, they have a employee of the week or an employee of the month.
Yeah.
It's a plaque, and they put their photo up and they put their name and how proud they are that they did such a good job.
I like that.
It's nice.
I think it's a good. I like the idea of recognizing good work.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it's a very American idea of a school of management. Let's.
That's a motivational technique.
It's a motivational tool from a school of management. So I thought, what would be great if it was it was the White House, and maybe it's the Oval Office or it's somewhere thereabouts, and there's a plaque on the wall that just says "Former Employee of the Week," not the month, the week, because week by and
you
then
can have like Tillerson.
Well, what I was thinking was having the picture of the latest casualty, and then having their name in those, those little slidey in kind of name tag things that then strewn around the bottom are other name tags, including Dowd, H.R. McMaster, Rex Tillerson, Hope Hicks, John McEntee, Carrie Cohn, Rob Porter, Mamarosa, Dina Powell, Tom Price, Sebastian Gorka, Anthony Scaramucci, Reince Priebus, Sean Spicer, Mike Dubke, James Comey, Mike Flynn, Sally Yates, and Steve Bannon. Just a friggin' pile of all of these names, because it grows every week. And it is absurd at this point. And a few people have made kind of jokes about it on stage, and some people have made jokes, like Bill Maher constantly refers to it.
I didn't know he did politics stuff, but that's interesting.
Yeah, no, he's trying something a bit new. Yeah. But then I haven't seen a New Yorker cartoon, and that's not to say that one hasn't been pitched, but I haven't seen one that's got up that really kind of shows exactly and specifically how many people have left in the last 4 months, let alone the last year.
Is there something in the idea of that? So you've got that idea of the former employee of the month. You know how there's the Hall of Presidents, where all the presidents, there's portraits of them all.
Yes.
Is there something for the Hall of Former Employees?
That's not bad, yeah.
For Trump?
Right.
And maybe they've got to put on another wing of the
White.
I don't know, like
something absurd that there's an extra wing for the White House for the former employees.
One step too far, but
I like the idea of the absurdity of it, but it sounds like something that because every time someone leaves, he'll say something so stupid like, "Oh, he'll be happier now." Like, remember when Rex Tillerson got bumped out? He was like, "No, I think Rex will be a lot happier now." He fired him on Twitter.
It was like he was telling the American. He was so close to telling the American people that. Yeah. Rex has gone to a farm. Yeah. He can just run.
Rex,
he can run. He'll be able to run all the time. Yeah. He loves swimming, and there's there's dams there and lakes and there's other dogs. There's
Fido and Steve Bannon. Yeah. There's a lake.
The Border Comey Cross, that's up there. So there's Rex. Border Comey.
Just all these dogs running around
all
the
these
farm.
dogs on the farm.
That's it. You know what? Bill Maher, speaking of the devil, he actually had one good point. He's like,
what?
Just
ever?
Just the one.
Because according to my friend Julia, that's one too many. As far as he's concerned. Julia, I hate Julia. Can't stand
it. Boy.
What up, Julia?
Shout out to Julia. Anyway, he had this point that when Hope Hicks left, she's like 26 or something like that, 28.
And also, I refuse to believe that there's a human named Hope Hicks.
I mean,
it's not a name.
Yeah.
Stormy Daniels sounds more realistic than Hope Hicks as a human's name.
So Hope Hicks left, because only in this era would a 26-year-old director of communications for the president of the United States of America leave because it was, this is a dead-end job. Can you just fathom how insane that is?
I'm just trying to get some. I think
no experience.
I wouldn't mind going somewhere to get some experience because I wouldn't mind ending up at Google one day. What?
Right.
No.
Facebook or something. Yeah. That's the other. So that's the other part of it is that you look at these. These are interesting times. I remember being in Australia when the election results came in. I was home for some family stuff, and when it happened, I had a full-scale meltdown, and my family were like, "Oh, come on, you're overreacting," because they were kind of detached from it a bit.
Yeah,
it's Perth. It's the furthest place.
It's the most isolated capital city on the planet.
On the planet Earth. So there was a sense of disconnection. I'm like, you don't understand. This is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, come on, how bad could it be?
It's amazing, though, that people would go like, hey, that Ashton Kutcher movie, Butterfly Effect, makes you think. But this guy being president, it won't change a thing. Like,
yeah, the stock market crashed, and only then did my stepdad go, oh, maybe he's right. Like, just for a minute. So another thing, so getting onto my other pictures, I don't really have anything that fantastic. I have, obviously, every day, I have several points in the day where I write down ideas. One in the shower, I have a waterproof
that's so weird to me.
notepad with a pencil. And I think I do my best work in the bath like Trumbo.
Yeah.
But also, I have a button on my phone that immediately takes a note for a New Yorker cartoon, an Evernote. And I go over them and revise them and think, what was I thinking for 99% of them? Here's one. It's a guy in a turban in a therapist's office, and he's just open. And the name of the therapist's office is Seek Help. He's a Sikh, you see.
I hate that. That is dangerously. Actually, I don't hate it.
You should hate it.
It's dangerously
repugnant.
It's dangerously. It's a bit SS economy.
It's horrendously bad. It's like having a politician hold a briefcase and writing their name on it.
That's right. It's SS economy, which is my
economy,
favorite. Which is a thing that we say if something's a bit kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
My favorite cartoons.
Yes.
I love things I hate. So like if there's an Andre,
we're the front runner for the name of the show, by the way. I love things I
love
hate.
things I hate. But if there's an Andre Rieu concert on, I'll watch it because I just that shit eating grin and just I just.
No,
I love that being annoyed.
I just can't.
So there was this fantastic show in Australia called Frontline, which was a satirical take at a daily current affairs show. In Australia had them all, and a lot of kind of. What were they? They were forever like chasing the fridge repairman from hell,
and the landlord from hell,
the neighbours from hell. Everything was from hell, except for True Blue was a hero. It was always battlers are heroes, and doll bludgers are the worst, and all this. Yeah. And so they had this cartoonist. The host was incredibly dim-witted, played masterfully by Rob Sitch. Yeah, yes. And he became enamored with this cartoonist who was writing the most ham-fisted, clunky thing. And
Pickering-esque.
It was real. It was real. Yeah, it was Pickering without the enormous dicks. And so...
Or strap-ons for Julia Gillard.
And the one that he really struck onto was it was a picture of a ship named SS Economy, clearly marked, heading for an iceberg named Recession. and so anytime that one of us does a cartoon, we'll go, oh, it's a bit SS Economy. So.
Because it makes you think, doesn't it?
Do you get it?
Makes you think.
Because if it collides, here's what icebergs do.
Pictures worth 1,000 words, mate.
Yeah.
It's
worth 1,003 words if you put words on it.
You're bloody geniuses, you are, you blokes. Anyway, I do have several of those that often pop up, and then I won't tell you them. But considering you hate what you love,
I love what I hate, and I hate what I love. That's
sure.
Weird.
What about a sign over on 42nd Street that says, "If you see something, sing something"? Anyway, what about?
I don't mind that. I'm actually not mad at that joke.
You should be. You should be.
You don't like that?
It's a horrible.
Can I throw in my version of this?
That's the. All right. Well, let's improve on it.
This is my. No, this is my. From the producers of If You See Something, Sing Something.
Yeah, it's a bit SS.
Two anchors.
Yeah.
Are talking to one another.
Yes.
And one of them is kind of twisting his, part like a traditional kind of anchor.
Yeah.
And one says to the other one, he's got something drawn on him, and it says, "I know it's cliched to get a guy from Williamsburg, but I think it's cool."
I would say I'll draw it for myself,
right,
to see it in the world. If only to get it out of your brain and onto a page somewhere. So
there are guys in Williamsburg getting anchor tattoos. Yeah, do you get the joke? I know it's very...
If you have to say, do you get
subtle.
The joke, I feel like
subtle.
We're a bit, well, okay, so for that kind of joke, every now and then they will run one of those, and it will be very self-aware as to how silly it is.
Yeah.
So you can get away with it as long as you don't think, I fucking nailed this one. This is amazing. I've done it. I've found it. Because you can actually do a silly gag well.
I like the idea of a meta joke. So in the New Yorker magazine, there's certain spots saved for cartoons and certain spots saved for poetry.
Poetry, yes.
And what I really like the idea of is us getting a cartoon into the poetry section referencing that it shouldn't be there. And whether it's a poem with a mountain climber literally climbing the words written on the page, and the caption is I'll break at the next stanza or something along those lines. I'll make base camp at the next sonnet or whatever.
There was
becoming very self-aware of the surroundings. I kind of like that idea.
That's not bad. There was a Ben Schwartz caption competition recently that I think it was Ben Schwartz where there was the mountain climber coming up and you had to.
I saw that. Yeah.
So I think that may. You know what? It doesn't matter. You can still pitch the same background.
So we'd have to no. It would be literally a poem
in the poem. Yeah.
Written,
okay. Right.
And then dangling off the edge of one of the lines.
Yeah.
So we'd write a poem.
Right.
And then dangling off the edge of the line, we draw a character.
Yeah. A little mountain climber.
Who's a little mountain climber.
Yeah.
Who's like, I'm gonna get,
Yeah.
I'll make base camp at the first sign of imagery. And maybe it's like, I don't know, what I mean?
Stanza.
Yeah, the stanza. Right. I think stanza is just a funny word.
Yeah, as soon as he mentions a peaty bog or something. Okay. That's not a...
Peaty Bog's a good rap name for a Scottish guy. MC Peaty Bog.
MC Peaty Bog. And I'm gonna rap for you now. I like the... Okay, so there's something there. There's something in the poetry. Now, you should know that the poets do have a bit of a hang-up at the fact that we have 16 spaces in the magazine for cartoons, and they've got maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most for poems. So it's even harder. If it isn't hard enough to get a cartoon in the New Yorker, which is like landing a rocket on a golf tee, you also have the fact that...
not an analogy I'm familiar with.
SpaceX.
I've never heard that.
Okay, well, I made it up.
Landing a rocket on a golf tee.
I do cartoons, not analogies. I'm not good at them. You've also got the poets who are trying. You've got 2 or 3 spots for poems, and they're all vying for the same 2 or 3 spots. So there's that.
In terms of this meta-ness, then.
Yes.
What about this? Just an insane situation. Like a killer whale, a clown that's juggling and blah, 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 blah.
Killer
clown. And then underneath... There's a bear shrugging at the Pope, and it says, "I've got no idea. We thought this would be for the caption contest."
That's pretty good, actually. It's very meta.
It's kind of meta.
I'm going to put it
in. I like the idea of a meta. Yeah, I think that could be a good batch.
If nothing else, it'll get stapled to the wall in the break room.
Yeah.
You know what? And that's the Louvre, as far as I'm concerned. If you get stapled or pinned to the corkboard in the break room, that is the equivalent for a cartoonist to being hung in the Louvre.
Well, here's the thing about that corkboard. You know the originals are actually in a basement.
Are they?
Yeah, like the Louvre. They say they're just fake versions.
They're fake
of
versions.
The jokes, the real ones.
I can believe that. If I can run through just a few more quick ones, I've got a priest or a pastor, walking past with the collection basket, and a gentleman leaning over, going, "Do you take Bitcoin?"
That's good.
That's no.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
One of yours, which I thought was pretty great, which we drew up. Still, I don't think it's going to get up, but it's the press briefing with Trump just going off on, when he just goes off script and he doesn't finish a sentence or a thought. He's just so completely bereft of ideas.
In a perverse way, that's when he's at his best.
I think so.
Don't you think? Like, that's when he's at his most engaging.
Right.
When you see it written down, you're like, these are, this could be written in feces on a wall.
Well,
but when you're watching it, it is incredibly engaging and
it's like watching tennis.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And you have to listen to every single thing. Otherwise,
like, is he going to get back to that?
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like this podcast.
It's really spinning plates.
It is. And in Fire and Fury, which I must admit I bought the morning it came out.
The earliest of adopters.
48 hours later, I had finished Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff, and I was dying laughing because he had transcribed verbatim.
Oh, they're wonderful.
And
I love
on the page,
Yeah.
it was like the scrawlings of a madman in blood before he went postal.
Yeah. And you imagine, I always imagine someone up for parole.
Yeah.
And does the defendant have anything to say in his defense? He's got this statement here, Your Honor, and they read it and they go, parole denied. That's just, you read it. No.
Oh man, there's a show that Colbert has just produced called The President's Show, and it takes it to that level of absurdity. It's a bunch of animators from like Titmouse and all that sort of stuff, and some great comedic actors doing the voices, and putting Trump in such situations where it is completely absurd, but then as soon as you pull back, you go, wait, that happened.
Yeah.
So there is a level of absurdity that now it is, as often people will ask us, is it hard to parody itself? And yes and no. It is and it isn't, because you'll draw something obscene and absurd and then all of a sudden it'll happen. And then on the other hand, you just kind of sometimes draw what happened so that when the aliens come by and the Earth is just a wasteland, they look at it and go, oh, right, so that happened, did it? You're just documenting the insanity. Another one that you pitched, which I really liked, was in the press conference, a couple of journos in the back sort of leaning over to each other during one of Trump's characteristic tangential rants, just going, he does know we can hear him, right? That's pretty good.
I don't mind that. Yeah,
I thought that was all right, but it didn't get up. And the other one that you pitched was great, with the Gallup poll going down to 34% approval, and him going, well, in golf, the lowest score wins, so as if it matters.
That's it. That's right. That was when he was... Just going back to the idea of the guys talking at the press conference.
Yes.
One thing I wanted us to kind of explore was the idea of psychics starting to kill themselves.
That's great.
Or the other one I had was Trump visiting a psychic, and the caption is just, again, it's not great.
That's great.
That idea of someone that can see the future.
Maybe I'm too excited about the idea, but it immediately struck 1,000 chords that there's something there.
Yeah, because we've been circling the idea of fortune tellers and stuff for a few weeks now. Yeah.
Fortune taker, truth teller, all that kind of stuff. You dance around an idea or a concept as it pertains to the current climate, and sometimes you're just throwing darts at a dartboard and wondering what's going to hit. But I think that's a pretty good angle.
Yeah,
something to do with actual forthune tellers.
Yeah, something like that. Someone
just killing themselves en masse.
Yeah. They know something.
Yeah,
it's a thing. I always think of. Do you remember the shocking tsunami that hit Thailand in Boxing Day of 2000, whatever it was?
2011, I think.
No, it was 2006 or 7, I think. It was.
05.
Yeah, 05.
The Javanese earthquake that sparked the tsunami. That's right.
And apparently, what happened is there was weird stuff happening with the water down at the seaside, where
the water
it was receded a lot, and was going in and out. But one thing that everyone noticed was the animals just legged it.
Yeah,
they just went up the hill. They knew it was coming, and I kind of like that idea of canary down the mine kind of thing of someone that. has an idea something bad is around
And
the corner.
is the harbinger of this a tweet? Is it something he does or says? Is it Iran? Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it North Korea? Is there something that happens? So the meeting is about to take place between Kim Jong-un and Trump, and all the animals know to scamper to a mountainside.
Leaving.
It just coincides with all these animals just fleeing.
Maybe it's an advisor, like, as he's going in.
Yeah.
And we just have words that the monkeys have headed for higher ground or something like.
Use them as the early warning system. Don't have a siren.
Maybe that's the thing.
monkeys.
And remember, as we always say, if you see animals heading towards cliffs,
if you say something, squeal something. That's great.
I do like the idea of just a psychic.
A psychic killing himself is funny, going, oh, I know what's coming. This is going to be horrible. It's a little grim. It could be a bit mad.
I think it's a bit dark. Yeah, I think maybe but if a psychic, if he's going back to a psychic, and she's like,
listen,
mate,
it's not good.
I don't know. I mean, we've been through this. What if that's just the caption? We've been through
like
this.
I said.
Means the palm reader.
The implication.
Palm reader, like she's got tiny
little.
She's got a magnifying glass on his hand.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've
I think we
been
have something
through
here,
the-
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
there's
something
something here.
yeah.
All right, let me
This
scribble
is
it
kind
up.
of what you.
Whenever we arrive at an idea that where it might have legs, I say I'll scribble it up and see what flies, and then I'll throw it in the batch. And then what happens is Emma, the cartoon editor, she will, to her credit, she gives feedback, which the previous cartoon editor, bless him, he'd been there for 20 years, but he didn't give a lot of feedback unless he really...
She's punched up jokes for us.
Oh, for sure. She'll
Like
punch up
made them a lot better.
The word economy,
Yeah, the
or
word
maybe
economy
if this
is
is the gag instead of this, my daily shouts. You had a great one of a couple of lions hiding behind a bush watching a vegan family picnic going, grain fed.
That's right. Yeah, the
great
vegan.
one.
Yeah.
And I think we were monkeying around with the idea of, vape oil is a big deal now. People go and buy vape oil, different flavors and things like that, and strengths. And back in the old West, you had a snake oil salesman. These fix-all Pirelli's Miracle Elixir kind of deals.
And that became shorthand for
a snake oil
liar.
salesman.
Yeah,
is somebody
our version is a used car salesman. Now,
Right.
I think that's
Well,
what
it's like
he's a real used car salesman.
A vape oil salesman is the future version of the snake oil salesman.
There you go.
And so we got a guy on the back of one of those carriages in the old West. Oh, he's a real vape oil salesman. And I passed the idea that vape oil is the new snake oil.
Is there something in the idea of someone untrustworthy? And this is just very kind of...
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the process. It's very ugly.
The idea of, like, a used car salesman's murdered, but it's only used car salesman that can testify, so no one believes.
That's funny.
No one...
12 good men and true.
Yeah,
That's
no
all
one
right.
believes it. Like, he's
Yeah.
that's something
yeah.
just to jot down. That idea of, like, the least trustworthy person has to testify for you.
The jury is made up of 12 used car salesmen.
all in plaid suits.
Yeah, with the patches on the elbows and the sun and the cheap and the some of them have like toupees and and fake teeth.
Maury's wigs from
Maury's
Goodfellas
wigs.
types. Yeah.
Jumping into the pool.
Yeah.
Wow, there's something there. Okay, yeah, used car stuff. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is how this fatuous garbage gets created.
I had another thing for
spewed
you to
forth into the world from
that
the
I wanted you
deranged
to
minds of Scott Dooley and Jason.
kind
Bateman.
of look at, which is the idea of. I just had the caption, which was what's it say?
Are you using Google Docs, by the way?
Yeah, I use Google
I use
Docs.
Evernote. Do you find Google Docs far more
I
streamlined?
just use I just
Okay.
because I can just use it on my phone. And stuff.
Right.
These are the two captions. Is like not
Okay.
now. I'm blowing something out of proportion, or
Yeah.
or I can't wait to blow this out of proportion later.
Yeah.
I like that idea of
Sounds like a Fox News thing.
or it might be a couple having an argument.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
like-
that's not bad. Like storing it away for a fight in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
I can't wait to blow this
Because
out of proportion
I
later.
can tell when I say things, and I look at Ashika, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have a chat about this.
Ashika's Scott's fiance.
Yeah,
by the
we're
way.
gonna have a
Yeah.
chat. Like this is
We're-
gonna be a
I can tell-
conversation.
Let's bookmark this for when we're furious. That's what we basically.
It's kind of a bit of a Larry David approach, isn't it?
It's very Larry David-esque. I like the idea that storing something away for a later argument, there's definitely scope in that. And I've seen many, many relationship cartoons in the New Yorker and similar, where it is something about a fight that they had or are about to have, but blowing something out of proportion is great because it uses that adage.
And no one that blows something out of proportion recognizes they're doing it.
Yeah.
Until much later.
Right.
So to say, to preemptively...
I can't wait to blow this out.
I can't wait to blow this out of... Oh, that's it.
Right.
I can't wait to blow this out of proportion.
Yeah.
So something's happening.
Yeah.
And it could be political, it could be...
It could just be a spilled bit of milk on the floor. It could be anything. It could be a tiny infraction in any... situation day to day. It could be a parking thing or a whatever. I can't wait to blow this out of it. You know, when you have you ever driven with your partner? You ever driven and tried to navigate somewhere?
She can't drive.
Okay.
Ashika doesn't have a
can she
driver's
navigate?
license. No, because she's never driven. So she doesn't know.
Okay.
She has no concept of the importance of she can't get her head around why it's important to know ahead of time that you have to turn. Like it just doesn't enter her mind that I may need to change lanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Path is the word. Path.
So I make it very clear. We've gotten to the point now where if we're driving out of the city, out of New York,
Yes.
somewhere,
Right.
and we get out of the city, we're like, that was awesome. We only had 2 arguments. Like
honestly,
we will be like, pats on the back, buddy. We only had 2.
I had to drive.
'Cause it's stressful.
Lease a car from Jersey and drive to Woodstock, New York. And I said to Sophie right up top, I go, now listen, honey, this
Off the top.
right off the top, I said, this is a 3-argument trip. So if we can space these out.
That's a joke, Jason.
No,
this
it's
is a
not.
3-argument trip.
Really?
If someone's looking at MapQuest or Google Maps,
right.
it says here it's a 3-argument trip. That's funny.
Okay,
Maybe,
all right.
or maybe it's the Google Maps.
I literally said it to her and she agreed.
Maybe it's the Google Maps.
So it's walking.
Train
car,
arguments.
arguments. Yeah. That could be
That's
something. Yeah,
funny.
That's not bad. Yeah,
That's funny.
Well, because we did. Sophie doesn't know left from right. Sorry, honey, I just dumped you in it.
Sure.
My wife doesn't know left from right.
She's a professional pianist that has to use both hands at all times.
Always playing the soprano notes with her left hand.
You can always tell. All you ever hear is dink, dink, ding, 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 and that's all you hear. You never hear.
Yeah, but it's the lower end. Though.
Yeah.
Up the top. So when we do a travel, she's the nav because I refuse to pay extra for a GPS. And I don't want to hear the GPS tell me where to go. And so she's
really lucked out this one.
We had a huge blow up in the car. We had a massive fight. I yelled. I thought the windscreen was
I
going to
can't
crack.
imagine you yelling.
You should see it. It happens so rarely. So when it does, the windscreen cracks. I'm like Banshee from X-Men.
Sure.
It's really something to see. And I think I might have deafened her in her left ear at one point. So there was...
It's all right. She's only a professional musician. That's fine.
She doesn't need that to tune pianos or anything.
But here's the thing about her. She didn't know which ear it was because you she was like,
boing. Wow. Well, you've really flagged the... It's really... Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I think we've got something here.
No, you got to finish the story. What
Well,
happened
the
with the
story
arguments?
is, I thought it was going to be a 3-argument trip. Turned out to be a 4-argument trip because getting out of Jersey and all the turnpikes and all the off-ramps, didn't realise that you have to get off them on the right side of the road because we're from Australia. So, of course, she too didn't know path and when to get into the right lane because you're going to have an exit coming up.
Listen to
I'm
this.
flying blind here.
My friend went on a trip upstate. He's Australian, a bunch of other Aussies.
Right.
They all go up and have their weekend away. It's all good. They all leave. They're in the middle of nowhere, up your way, near Woodstock kind of thing.
Right.
Driving back, first one sets off, second one follows them. They're driving, having a chat. How you feeling? Bit hungover. That was a fun night. God, that food was good. Blah, 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 blah. Holy shit. Car comes towards them. They've been driving on the wrong side of the road for 20 minutes. 2 cars.
Whoa.
Because they were just on holiday.
Cars
kind of
overtook
thing.
them on the right side of the road.
No one, they didn't see anyone for 20 minutes. They're in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
Till they came around a blind corner. Thankfully, everything was fine.
I mean,
they had a head. They had a head on, but it was okay because they weren't really speeding.
Yeah.
Job was the guy who was involved in the accident was saying he saw his life flash before his eyes. Literally, he saw things, and so he was like, "Why is this?" Yeah. And he's a really curious kind of mind.
Sure.
And so he
not curious enough to figure out that you're not driving on the right side of the road.
not curious. No, he's
not
curious.
That curious.
He's curious after the fact.
Post curious. Yeah.
But it turns out the reason you see your life flash before your eyes is because it's your body saying, this is a bad situation.
Mm.
How can I get out of this? Have I ever been in this situation before? What did I do?
Surely
not. You're scrolling through memories. It's such a intense moment that you're scrolling through memories literally. Like you are literally seeing them going, okay, when I fell off that cliff the last time, did I turn? What did I do?
Really? Do you think that's what that is?
That's what it's put down to.
It sounds like a highlight reel. It seems things in your life that happened that you're just going, look, let's get the highlights and get out of here. That's what people say. It's
meeting Björk.
Yeah. It's moments in your life that you go, oh, look, born, first kiss, first learning to ride a bike, marriage, all that stuff.
Right.
And then death. Because they're like, oh, you had a good run. Here's the highlights. See you later. That's what a lot of people say flash before your eyes is, not climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
When you're driving on the wrong side of the road in Vermont.
Yeah, no, but his was, but that's what they put it down to because he did a lot of research into it. Can I pitch one more before we go?
Absolutely, yes.
You know those police attack dog suits?
Yes.
A woman being attacked.
Yeah.
And it just says, honestly, I'm feeling really attacked right now. I heard someone say that on the train, and she was telling a story, and she went, and I just said, honestly, I'm feeling really attacked right now.
Wow.
And it was like she was at brunch,
Because of course she was.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny. There is an aspect to this that we have to tread very carefully because comedy in this day and age, we're not telling you anything you don't already know, but comedy in this day and age, you do have to be somewhat sensitive to the language you use and who you drop in it. Now, there's a two-part, I guess it's something that you go through when you're writing jokes as a comedian now, but also as you're writing cartoons for things like The New Yorker, you write for your audience, is it important that the two people talking in this cartoon are men or white or young or old or, there's certain cliches that get to the joke quicker because you're like, oh yeah, of course there's a couple of guys in suits talking about this, but why are they guys? Why are they white? Why are they this, that, and the other? If there's a joke that pertains to a movement or some kind of zeitgeist thing, you do have to tread a little carefully because I feel very attacked right now. It's almost belittling the idea of
I
women
didn't even make
feeling.
That connection. Yeah,
and I the only reason I bring it up is there's a couple of reasons. One is that the readers read into things. That's what they do. And second of all,
readers of the New Yorker?
You don't want to belittle. You don't want to belittle anything accidentally.
No, absolutely.
I know that's not what you were trying to do.
No, I was just putting this woman in this situation.
It's absurd.
What would she do if she was literally being attacked?
But if there was someone in the corporate structure who felt like, oh, you know what? There's a lot of not masochism. There's a lot of masculine kind of, I always feel very, very threatened right now. I feel very attacked right now by language that is used or, a posture or anything like that. It may tend to belittle something.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that.
No,
I just
know
was
that's
thinking very literally.
But these are the thought processes that one goes through when they write a cartoon for publication. And the only reason I bring it up as well is that the cartoon editor herself will bring it up. We pitched a cartoon.
Well, that's right. We had one recently
a couple of weeks back where I would have bet the house on this one. It was my favorite joke I think you've ever pitched me.
That's right.
And
what was that one? Yeah, you were really bullish on this one.
I was very bullish on it, which is why it took 5.5 hours to draw it. I did several different versions of it.
Just out of interest, how long does it take? So when you and I are dicking around here and you go, I'll scribble that up.
Yeah. I mean, there's ones that I'll rough up because it's a word first.
No, I'm saying like for one that's for publication, how long does that take?
A couple of hours at least, I think. Yeah, because I get it's more about what you don't include than what you do.
It's unlike you to overthink something, Jason.
So it's in the way that it's word economy, it's also line economy. So
this is a name.
Okay.
Name pitch.
Yeah.
Negative space.
Get out of it.
Okay.
What a bunch of wank.
That's been done a million times.
Has it though? I think there's got to be. I'm still sticking to something like, is there something in this, or is this funny?
Is there something in this kind of
with Scott Dooley and Jason Jeffers, something like that.
Do we need the chat field? I don't know. We'll talk about that later.
I think two heads are better than one in 99.9% of cases. The gag was, and I'll say it because I don't think we can sell it now. I pitched it to both major magazines and they both decided to pass.
Yeah, what was this one?
It was the customs gate at JFK in the declarations,
yeah.
and you had the regular line, and I literally drew the exact customs gate at JFK with the Department of Homeland Security, everything, and it was the regular customs gate on the left saying nothing to declare, and then on the right it said, I do declare. And there was a whole bunch of southern guys in
drinking mint
seersucker suits.
That's right.
Drinking mint juleps.
We were Googling which glass a mint julep is served.
I had it in a cocktail glass, and you were like, no, it's in a copper. We went to the detail.
That's
you
right.
wouldn't believe
Googling
the detail.
that. Yeah,
the
no, that's
costumes,
joke. Yeah.
The hats, the spats, everything. And the guys in the suits with the boots, everything. And the girl with the big bust, what do you call it, with the big dress that goes
petticoaty
situation.
Yeah.
I tell you, I put everything into this joke, and she was like, there's too many associations with certain things.
I think
you never think about that. But
no, you don't, because that's not part of our direct history. Like, we don't.
No.
You know what I mean? And this is the thing I was thinking
about.
about.
Marbo cartoon or something.
Yeah, like we just would. It would never enter our heads to do that.
Right.
And so I think it's fair crack. And if that's the rules of the game, that's fine. Obviously, no one would ever think we were doing something to make light of any of the American history, particularly in that part of the world.
Sure.
But that it's so recent. That's the thing that's always struck me about American history, is that when you hear folks talking about why we deserve the Confederate flag, and then you see people that are like, I was there.
Yeah, literally.
And these are our contemporaries' grandparents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't something that happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Right.
This is something that happened
I think
recently. Oprah Winfrey has been involved in it. Like, you know what I mean? She lost friends in a church bombing.
Yes.
This isn't some
between
thing. And I think that, I think maybe fair play to that.
Well, I think
it was probably a bit.
Patrice O'Neill and Louis C.K. both rip. Both
both R.I.P.
R.I.P. They both did have bits about the fact that every time people talk about slavery, they add an extra 500 years. They go, it was 800 years ago.
Yeah.
It was less than 200 years ago.
No, and that was one of the things I did when I moved here. I was like, because you're doing stand-up and you want to kind of find out about the history of things.
Right.
And I was dumbfounded
how
recent it was.
Absolutely. I'm still dumbfounded.
Because the narrative from those saying it wasn't a big deal is that this happened. So get over it, even if it was 800 years ago.
Still, it's like saying get over the Holocaust.
It's like I was shocked by that.
I know people who earnestly say, "Oh, come on, mate, move on." I'm like, no.
Who
Australians who don't understand how recent it was, because they don't. It's in history books. So it's in black and white photos. That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and history. Yeah.
And history is history.
Can I just pitch a name now?
Do it.
Woke blokes.
Stop. That's too much.
Have we got anything?
The last thing that I think we should do each week is take a pitch from...
Have we got enough for a batch, though?
Oh, we've got a batch,
We've got a batch?
We've got a batch, my bitch. So I think we have...
I don't care for that.
Batch pitches with Scott Dooley and Jason Chatfield. I think we ought to... Because one of the things that I noticed when I started being a professional cartoonist, 15 years ago, no one gave a crap. But as soon as I started getting published, every now and then I would get a message or an email saying, hey, I've got one for you. It's like when you tell your doctor you're a comedian, they go, here's one for your little skits.
Yeah.
So I will get a message on several times a day now. If I post a cartoon on Instagram, on Facebook, I will get an email or a DM saying,
I've got one for you.
Got one for you.
Great.
Is that the name of the podcast? I've got one for you.
Got one for you.
Here's one. And so I will get, and inevitably it will be. I hate to say, people don't think like cartoonists because they're not deranged. They're, wonderful people.
And you've explained this to me.
Yes,
there is a real science, particularly to a New Yorker cartoon.
Certainly, yes. It's the image. So you look at the image, go down to the caption, back up to the image. You have 8 seconds at the absolute maximum. That is 8 seconds is very, very. That's very nice. Usually, they used to say 4 to 5 seconds, right?
Who's that?
Newspaper editors and cartoonists. Right. They would say you've got about 4 to 5 seconds for them to get it. Otherwise, forget about it. If they have to keep reading and figuring it out to get it, then you've lost them. That's why they turn to the cartoon page or the comic strips first.
Sure.
It's easily digestible. It's quick. If you don't get it, Garfield.
Can we just use exclusive Godfather talk? The funny papers from now
funny
on?
papers.
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you.
Garfield is famous for being the cartoon strip, the one comic strip that you don't realize that you haven't even read it after you've read it. You've read it before you even realize you read it. It's Garfield. I mean, there's nothing to read. It's just you see it and you've already. Even if you decide not to read it, you've already read it. That's how easy it is.
Are you dissing that lasagna-loving, Monday-hating?
Let's not get into Jim Davis on this particular podcast.
Well, if we're woke blokes, he's problematic, right?
He's based in Muncie, Indiana. That's the paragon of liberalism, isn't it? Anyway, he bought a farm in Muncie, Indiana. I don't even want to. Let's not get into it now. It's like the Outback. It's like the Outback Steakhouse.
This
of the
is the thing that I'm learning. This is the thing that I'm learning.
There's a whole other world in cartooning. Yeah.
This is the thing that I'm learning. Yeah, there's a whole other world. Also, speaking of Outback Steakhouse, Jason and I have a standing bet now, which is I will bet Jason a steak dinner that Outback. A certain joke will get up, and it's at Outback Steakhouse.
To date. You haven't got one up.
I'm none and 5.
Yeah, but
I owe Jason 5 Outback Steakhouse dinners. But herein is the genius. He will refuse to go to the Outback.
Vehemently refuse to go to that disgrace. I will be there
with bloomin' bells on.
What a disgrace of an establishment that is. That cultural appropriation. What is a bloomin' onion?
I think
They've made
cultural appropriation might be a little
much.
Taking
my white bloody pride.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this particular point, I do think we should take a pitch from one of you, dear listeners. I think we ought to take text us, email us, whatever you need to do. Tweet us, Instagram us. I don't
text Jason, email Jason.
Hey,
Facebook Jason.
Can you take the load off me, please? Because I get enough already. But every now and then someone will go, I've always had a great idea for a cartoon.
Yeah.
And it always starts with here's one for you, or I've always thought this would make a great
cartoon. I've always thought this would be a great cartoon. They're always my favourite because because they've had time
to marinate,
to realise this is not a good idea.
But they still insist there's something in this.
Has anyone ever given you one where you're like, actually, that's pretty...
A couple of times I've gone...
I suppose that is how this podcast started.
Yeah.
Me doing that.
Well, no, the difference is you're a comedian and you already know the mechanics of comedy. Sure. So that probably gives you a little bit of a leg up. But it always starts with, I've always thought this was a good idea for a cartoon.
Great.
And it's either a bit they couldn't sell on stage if they're a comedian.
Right.
Or they are a lawyer, an accountant, or a psychologist or psychiatrist. 9 times out of 10, they're in that industry. And they will say, I've always thought this would make a good cartoon in the New Yorker. And 10 times out of 10, it's dog shit.
Can we? I think. All right. Let's hear. What's this week's pitch?
This week's pitch. Well, listen, and please don't. I shouldn't have to preface this, but please don't think that we're going to ask for one so that we can lambast you on air. Like it's not something we want to completely use.
Do you know what would be ideal? This is my ideal.
Yeah.
Is that someone pitches us one?
Okay. Yes.
And it gets up, and it is by Jason Chatfield,
Yeah.
Scott Dooley, and listener.
Right. Well, wouldn't that be nice?
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine by just listening to this podcast, you become a published New Yorker cartoonist?
You're in the system. It's a whole thing.
You become
We're really it's like carnival salesman right now. You can.
This is vape oil salesman.
This is vape oil salesman right now. Here's one. The scene would be a city block, and please jump in whenever you feel.
Sure.
A city block, 2 fire hydrants next to each other.
That's a common look.
One labelled good boys, and the other good girls.
Oh.
And the good girls hydrant has a line of several dogs, clearly female. I don't know if this would be made clear by breed or personified
No,
styling.
you just
maybe
put
a
ribbons on them. Put ribbons.
ribbon
Put
on the
ribbons
head.
on the dog. Yeah.
Classic. While the good boys hydrant is empty. And the line would read, "They never have a line. I'm just going on their hydrant."
Oh,
It's a little bit SS.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, no, that's a bit SS economy. Yeah, it is.
Good boys and good, labeling something right at red flag already. But but that said, I've pitched many cartoons with labels like the 2 water towers with still or sparkling. But
that's it. But that's how. Yeah, no, I kind of give you a pass on that. That's my major issue with that.
Yes.
My major issue
is
that you never see 2 fire hydrants next to one another.
That's exactly
that's
right.
That's what really.
Here's the problem.
That's what makes me annoyed.
In my brain, every time you set up a joke, particularly in the New Yorker, it has to be based in some even vague truth. Because every joke has some aspect of a truth to it. And if the premise itself is so far removed from a daily, just the quotidian, just seeing something every day, you never see a couple of fire. The closest thing you see is a Siamese connection of a fire hydrant.
Because
which is, by the way, racist.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
You are different to me.
Okay.
In as much as I'm mad for a talking animal,
and
you balk. It's got to be
balk.
the animal has to be saying something particularly funny.
That's exactly right. I love animals, and I dare not put anything in their mouth.
See, I'm a psycho. So that Ricky Gervais special, I'm like,
Yes.
this is just genius. Talking,
Right.
I mean,
Talking
a
animals?
dolphin that can talk. I would think of such a thing.
Of course, a Labrador sounds like that.
Yeah. That's me. I'm just like, that is. Oh, how did he come up with that?
Right.
So
I have misgivings about it.
You hate it.
It's a free kick.
So it's an absolute free kick, but I love hearing it. I'd never do it. I've never done a bit.
I doubt that. I think if you have the opportunity.
I've never done a talking dog bit. Never.
Sure?
Ever.
Okay, all right.
Having said that. So
Yes.
is there something in, it's 1 hydrant and 2 dogs lamenting the fact that you only ever see it when you don't need to go?
That's
not
bad.
There's never a queue when you don't have to go. Is that the...
Okay,
because the
here's
idea
what
of
I
dogs
think.
pissing on a fire hydrant is always fun. Like, it's just a thing they do.
For sure. Here's what I keep thinking. In New York, and New Yorkers will know this, there are no effing public toilets in Manhattan. You go around and all you have is a Starbucks, or maybe if you're lucky, like a Pan Liquid.
I can only think of... If you were to say, where is a public toilet, the only one I can think of is Bryant Park.
Yeah, but that one, even then, it's a dare. You go in there on a dare.
Yeah.
There's also Grand Central and Port Authority.
Oh, no, you wouldn't go near them.
Are also death wishes.
Yeah.
So I would say that the joke might be about hydrants and its equivalent to, there not being any toilets in Manhattan.
What if there's...
You've got to hold it until you find a hydrant, which is the equivalent of a dog's Starbucks.
Yeah, or the idea of blue lights above hydrants to stop heroin-addicted dogs.
Jesus, okay, that's an extra level. Maybe that's more of a Mad magazine than a New Yorker.
I don't know. Like, I do like the idea of the equivalency of fire hydrants and public lavatories.
Yeah.
I think there is something... This is amazing. I actually picked up Jason's pen just because I just saw a pen there, and he pulled out another pen to write down.
I've got 2 more. Where that came from. Fire hydrants and...
that equivalency is funny in
blue
itself.
lights.
Like, I think that suggestion...
Well, it's a spark.
The thrust of it is actually quite interesting. The equivalency of public lavatories. I think striking a blow for the sisterhood isn't kind of... That might
be
not
honest,
be...
you just love a talking dog.
I'm mad for a talking dog.
Yeah, okay.
That's
what got you
That's
going.
what got me in.
You look like a Labrador right now.
And that's why I'm really fighting hard for it, because I want it to work.
If it does, I'm going to... I mean, here's the thing. That we aren't using that specific joke. We are using it as a jumping off point for something that might work. And by all means, if you do send one in and we end up getting something in apropos of the original suggestion of the idea, it's tricky to put your name on it, but we'll see how close it is.
I think let's just do what they do in the legal world, where would a reasonable person
That's funny.
be able to say, you wrote this joke? And I think that I think
12 good men and true, good car salesman and a jury.
Heroin light.
Yeah, okay.
That's a very lateral move. Is
move.
enough removed from the person that wrote that. And listen, you had me at talking dogs.
I think that's the name of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You had me at talking dogs.
Oh, yeah, we've got to come up with a name. What do we want? Is there something in?
I think, is there something in this?
Is there something in this?
Yeah, because you say that to me 4 times a day.
Yeah, at least.
At the very least. And I will very often say no or what about this?
And here's the thing about this.
Or yes.
Here's the thing about this name.
Right.
We might get some weird, like, medical types.
Is there something in this?
Is there something thinking it's about a pussy wound?
Is there something in this?
Is there something in this?
An anus, episode 1.
All right, then.
An ear, episode 2.
If you have any
Nostrils.
pictures, Jason Chatfield comedian on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's all just find Jason. And I think that's where we'll put our batch.
Great. That's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll put the batch up there.
Yeah.
So when you listen to this, go and have a look at the batch that we've come up with. You can catch Jason on the Move On Up podcast with Devin and Jason. You can catch me on Greenlight Boys, another podcast.
Yes, indeed.
Rate us
highly. Do it.
And
if you're in New York, come and see Scott do stand-up at UCB. Come and see me do gigs around the city, jasonchatfieldcomedy.com. I always put my dates up there. But Scott is doing some great gigs.
I'm doing gigs. Yeah. I'm around. Yeah. You can find me.
Talking like a dog?
If you've got a talking dog. Here's the thing. If you have a talking dog.
Yes.
You will get free tickets for life to any show I do ever.
Wow.
Forever.
Are you going to stick by this?
Yeah, because
We're
dogs
not gonna cut this out.
Dogs live for 14 years.
Okay.
Even talking ones.
Okay. Oh, do they?
I don't know. What is the lifespan
Next
of
week on...
Now, that's the name of a podcast. What's the lifespan of a talking dog?
Okay. Well, now we've gone in the other direction.
No, I reckon. Thank you for listening to Is There Something in This? We'll be back next week.
Thanks, guys.